And if he's not in that position, but he's playing well, we know that the reason that would be the case is because they don't want people clamoring for Shedeur Sanders prematurely.
Kevin Stefanski has finally reached his breaking point. For weeks, he stood at the podium, choosing his words carefully, shielding his young quarterback from the harsh spotlight. But this time, the mask slipped. After yet another disappointing outing, Stefanski didn't mince words. He admitted, plainly, bluntly, that Dillon Gabriel's performance was not good enough. And then came the dagger. The head coach went further, pointing to specific moments in that disastrous second quarter. Decisions that weren't just questionable, they were catastrophic. Play calls that turned opportunities into turnovers. Drives that should have built momentum, instead collapsing into momentum killers. The ripple effect was unmistakable. Fans left restless, muttering in frustration. Teammates walked off the field with body language that told the story louder than any stat sheet could. This wasn't a bad day at the office. This was the kind of breakdown that shakes the foundation of trust. When a head coach publicly calls out his quarterback, it's not just about accountability. It's a signal, a flashing red light that says, this experiment is failing. For Stefanski, a man who has built his career on control, precision, and structure, this moment marks a turning point. The faith is gone. The patience has run out. And now, the question looming over Cleveland is no longer if Gabriel can turn it around, but how much longer the Browns can afford to wait.
Good so far. And this one is picked off and going back the other way. Now it's a foot race. Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles, Andrew Makuba. A pick six the other way on the first play of the second quarter.
After the final whistle blew, the contrast could not have been clearer. All night long, Dillon Gabriel labored under the weight of expectation and cracked. No touchdowns, no statement throws, no defining moments that could silence the critics. Even with the backing of a first-team defense giving him every chance to control the pace, he squandered opportunities one after another. His mistakes didn't just stall drives, they tilted the field, swinging momentum fully into the opposition's hands. But perhaps the most alarming part wasn't his performance. It was his response. Instead of humility, instead of accountability, Gabriel projected a sense of control he hadn't earned. Then came the moment that turned frustration into controversy. He dismissed Shedeur Sanders not as a quarterback, not as a rival, but as an entertainer. A jab that may have felt small in delivery, but carried consequences far larger than he could imagine. That kind of arrogance, on the heels of such a disastrous outing, sparked immediate backlash. Analyst G. Bush cut through the noise, calling Gabriel's words reckless and unnecessary. And he was right. For a quarterback touted as having near-machine precision, Skynet-like processing, the media said, a Terminator in the pocket. The gap between Gabriel's reputation and his reality was glaring. Instead of proving his edge against live defenses, he chose to take aim at Sanders. And in doing so, he didn't just challenge another quarterback. He poked the hornet's nest of Sanders' massive and fiercely loyal fan base. What should have been a night of clarity for Gabriel became something else entirely. A moment of self-inflicted chaos, one that now threatens to overshadow his future in Cleveland.
When it comes to being a supercomputer, he was only second to Skynet in the Terminator series. He is now capable of sending Terminators backwards and forward through time, waging a war with the Shedeur Sanders fans.
But here's the truth. This entire controversy doesn't just rest on Dillon Gabriel's shoulders. At its core, it circles back to Kevin Stefanski. From the very start of training camp, his approach towards Shedeur Sanders has been puzzling, if not outright unfair. While other quarterbacks cycled through opportunities with the first team, Sanders was left watching from the sideline, denied the very reps that could have showcased his ability. And it wasn't because he failed to impress. Quite the opposite. In limited snaps, Sanders displayed the kind of poise and playmaking that sparked excitement, both inside the locker room and across Cleveland's fan base. Yet, when the buzz grew louder after that electric preseason debut, Stefanski didn't lean into the moment. He resisted it. He doubled down, making it abundantly clear that Sanders wasn't part of his immediate vision. Publicly, Stefanski framed his stance as fairness, claiming his priority was developing everyone, not just Sanders. On the surface, it sounded diplomatic, but the tone, the phrasing, the timing, it felt less like balance and more like justification. An excuse to keep Sanders buried on the depth chart, regardless of merit. And that's where the tension truly ignited. Fans weren't just frustrated with Gabriel's shortcomings. They began to question their head coach's motives. Was this about competition, or was it about control? Was Stefanski protecting his system, or simply protecting his pride? One thing became certain. This wasn't just a quarterback battle anymore. It was a controversy with roots deep in leadership. And to understand just how combustible it had become, you only need to hear Stefanski's own words.
Yeah, pleased with Shedeur, pleased with the offense. Again, not perfect, plenty that we can work on, but I thought the guys did a really nice job of Shedeur and operating, the guys making plays. So, again, a ton to teach off of.
If Kevin Stefanski's earlier comments weren't enough to raise suspicion, the latest reports have escalated this drama to an entirely new level. Word now is that Stefanski isn't even considering Shedeur Sanders as part of the Browns' future plans. For fans, it felt like a gut punch. After all the hype, all the glimpses of brilliance, and the undeniable energy Sanders injected into the franchise, their head coach still isn't convinced he's the man to deliver. That revelation didn't just bruise Sanders' confidence. It rattled the faith of a fan base that's been clamoring, begging to see him take the reins. Because when a coach makes it clear he doesn't believe in his young quarterback, the message is unmistakable. There's no future here. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it grows quickly. It grows in the locker room, in the stands, and across the entire city of Cleveland. And everything, every subtle comment, every decision, every refusal to elevate Sanders, pointed toward one possible reality. Kevin Stefanski was deliberately killing Shedeur's momentum. Then came the reports that blew the doors wide open. Whispers began to spread that Stefanski himself had pushed a false narrative, that Sanders was dealing with an injury, an oblique issue, supposedly. But the timing was too convenient. The explanation, Smith stepped in. On national television, Stephen A. didn't hold back. He accused Stefanski of fabricating the entire story, of creating a smokescreen to justify burying Sanders on the depth chart. This, he argued, wasn't about protecting a rookie quarterback. It was about protecting Stefanski's control. The so-called injury was nothing more than a cover-up, a convenient excuse to keep Sanders sidelined without sparking outrage from the fans who were already demanding change. Stephen A. pointed directly at the depth chart as his proof, calling it the ultimate smoking gun. If Sanders had truly been injured, he argued, why did it only surface at the exact moment when key roster decisions were looming? Why was it that just as Sanders had positioned himself for a legitimate shot at climbing the ladder, this mysterious setback appeared out of nowhere? To Stephen A., the answer was clear. The Browns never intended to let Sanders rise. The sudden talk of injury wasn't medical. It was political. A perfectly timed maneuver to stall his ascent